last June. Okay, Bob and John. Sorry, they're the first two I saw. Are you there, Jennifer?
She's gone.
Yeah, I think she is gone.
We just went live streaming.
I know, I saw that.
It's possible that is
And that's who Jennifer
Administrator
Bleshefel
before,
is that's up there.
she may have lost her administrative connection.
No, that is the administrative connection with the Clearview Public Library picture.
Yeah, Kayla made her the host. Hi, Doug.
Yes, I took post from Jennifer. She should be okay. I'm not sure if she got disconnected on her own accord. I haven't seen me taking host kick anyone out before, but
No, it shouldn't because you were on and she was on a few minutes ago. Okay, Jen, where are you? That's weird. Michelle, can you try to reach her?
She may
That's
have
what I'm
done.
doing. Sorry.
Okay, that's what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
She may have done what I did, which was when I saw that screen, I just.
Okay.
exited out.
You're back.
She's back.
Hello. You disappeared on us, Jennifer. Oops,
Oh.
she's on again.
Okay, whoops.
She did it
Okay.
again.
She's very on.
Gremlin.
She's not very sticky today.
No, no.
Holy crow.
So are we all getting used to Zoom?
Yeah.
Are we all getting sick of Zoom? Did you say?
Yes, yes, I am, Mary. I am one of those. Also getting tired of the way the Zoom delays our meetings and makes it difficult to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Well, I think that live streaming screen is a difficult one because you can just usually X screens out. But when you exit out, it takes you right out of the meeting. So you have to agree to be live streamed.
Well, we are live streamed.
I had a choice though. I could leave the meeting, it said.
Oh,
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I looked at that and I thought, well, I'll just exit the screen, and it knocked me out of the meeting.
oh.
are you back for good now, Jennifer?
Well, I hope so, but there's this thing in the middle of my screen, so I can't see half of you. And every time I click it off, I'm out of the meeting.
Disappear.
Now, be-
Yeah.
You see
you
the,
have
Oh,
options.
you didn't hear me cursing and swearing, right?
No.
Jennifer, in that screen, the corner, there's three little buttons, three little dots.
Yep.
If you click on that, there should be an acceptance in there. That should keep you on.
you can opt to remain in the live stream. You see that?
I can't, there's something covering it that I can't move. Anyway,
But
okay.
That's a white box, right?
Yes, all right.
In that white box.
I got it. It's gone. I'm here.
Excellent.
Hallelujah.
Excellent. Okay, were there any concerns about, we may already pass the minutes, so I guess we'll just
Yeah.
pass on them. Nobody had any concerns.
So
Business
business.
Horizon report, Jennifer?
Yes, let me get to it. And there's not that much on it. I do have a couple of additions for the CEO report, but for the Rising report, the Stainer Branch door has been fixed.
Oh, good.
We had to have the electrician, the alarm company, and the door operator company here today, but we had Michelle managing them, and Terry Vachon allowed us to use the scissor lift so that they could actually access the control mechanism, and we have moved it so it's more accessible. We have sufficient funds in the budget to pay for this. It's just below 5,000, but it's also $5,000 with 3 different contractors. I mean, that is the overall price. So we didn't need to go and get quotes or anything else. So that's been accomplished today. We're very excited about that. You had passed the revised employee policy, and that has been circulated to all staff. It's in all the branch policy binders, and Tammy Gill, as the Township of Clearview or the Human Resource Officer for the township, has also got a copy, as well as the Benefits and Payroll Coordinator for the township. The pop-up library is now in Michelle's capable hands, and she's sussing through how to utilize it so we can utilize it when we do go off site to do programs. Now, Michelle, when are we booked to go and be at the Creemore Farmers Market in the near future?
Must be, it only goes to Thanksgiving, doesn't it?
Okay, so with the farmers market, we're not going to be there. We're going to go to the Teen Youth Center with it on September 28th. Problem is now, depending on these vaccination regulations and gatherings and whatever's happening today.
Okay, so I can advise you that there is a statement coming, a press release coming out from the township that addresses the youth center. So if you watch for that, you'll know what is required. Youth center is still going to operate, but you'll see what's needed.
Okay, so that's where we're going to make the grand debut of the pop-up.
Okay, that's great. Good to know.
Pam?
Can I ask a question? Sorry. I don't know if I missed something, but what do you mean by the pop-up library?
Okay, so we had planned to buy this last year, but of course we had the pandemic. So it's a small device that is filled with 500 fiction titles, and you need electrical current, but it has its own Wi-Fi. We don't have, well, we have to pay for it because there's a subscription fee, but we can plug it in anywhere, and you don't need a library card to download those titles. So when we're doing external events, or in this case, it's kind of an external internal event, we'll have that available and people can download. We had intended it for farmers markets and our outreach programs, of which we've had very little, but we finally have received the device. Michelle is going over the best ways to use it, and this is where it's going to come through. It was originally purchased with some funding from another source that I can't remember within the township budget. It wasn't coming out of the initial purchase for the device did not come out of regular tax dollars. It was money available elsewhere in the township. Dollars I can get Kelly.
That's okay. No, I just
I can't remember at this point. Yeah, so we had been looking at this for a couple of years.
Perfect.
Bob?
Thank you.
Sorry, Bob.
There was some reference to looking at the price of a porta power unit. Is that given any consideration?
Well, we're still going to consider that, but we don't need it at this time, because I think what Michelle is looking at is taking it to places where there's electrical current at this point, because we still, we're not entirely sure what's happening. We had thought that this fall we'd have more opportunity to have in-person programs, obviously with social distancing, et cetera, in place. But it does not look like that's where the ministry wants us to go. And certainly I've reviewed what the Penetanguishene Public Library was told by our medical officer of health for Simcoe Muskoka, and in-person programming is not going to be happening anytime soon. So when we are moving towards more of that, other than in specific places like the youth center, then we'll look. I've got the funding to be able to purchase that, Bob, when we so need it.
Okay. Moving on in your business
Okay.
advising report.
So you had asked that the policy and the forms be deferred to this meeting to discuss. I've included them, the documents. I've made sure that when I put council in before, that I've changed it to board. So the documents should be all correct for you to have a look at and discuss.
Mhm. Okay, that's later on in the schedule here. Do you want to?
Yeah, I've got it as 4.5, so you can actually, we can
Look
keep
at it
that
then.
discussion, because if you do approve it, of course, you'll have to have a motion.
Yeah.
And you can see that as you requested at the last meeting, we will now have the approval of the agenda and public participation at the beginning.
Okay,
So we didn't have anything from the public for this meeting. other than you had Tammy as a member. Yes, Bob.
I was wondering whether that shouldn't be, with public participation shouldn't be included as a heading, even if there's nothing there, so that the public understands where they might be taking part in our agenda.
Well, that's what I've got under deputations and presentations, and that's pretty much the wording from that the township uses. So that's what that is, and that will stay in there whether there's something there or not.
So that we were renaming public participation presentations.
Well, it's just that the public wants to participate. It's called a deputation or a presentation, and we can leave it as that. If they send us something, they have to send it to us before, I think, noon on the date of the meeting for us to be able to adjust things. But that, so it'll appear there, and it will, just like this agenda, you see there's nothing under correspondence. So if there's no deputations or presentations, it will just say none.
Okay, I'm just thinking of the public that they, if they're looking for public participation, they're not going to find it.
Well,
If they look at a deputation, they won't expect themselves to be a deputation.
yeah, I know that, Bob,
Or a
but
presentation.
if you go to the website where it asks you to submit your public participation, you would do that, and then we would contact you and negotiate to place you at that in the agenda.
Okay,
So we would certainly be talking to the person. They're not just, because we're virtual right now, they're not just going to put up their hand. There has to be some negotiation back and forth to ensure that, if there's documents or anything or slides or whatever, that's included in what we're doing during the meeting.
well, they wouldn't put up their hand anyway, because they'd have to get an invitation from you to join the meeting.
Right.
Yes.
So.
But we would certainly extend that, and we would tell them at what point in the agenda, under what in the agenda they would be. Are you going, Connie? Come on.
Bye, Connie.
Where they would
Okay.
be. So,
That's fine, thank you.
okay, and so that's it for the business rising from the last meeting.
All right, now your report.
Right, so I'm going to let Michelle speak to the summer reading program, because it was, considering that it was virtual, we didn't have summer students last year, right? Because everything was topsy-turvy, but we got them this year anyways, even though things were virtual. And I think it's been a great success, and I'll let Michelle elaborate on that.
Okay, can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Perfect, good, okay. So we had, I think, two of the best students that we've ever had, Michelle and Ella. They were really enthusiastic, they were artistic, they did the best they could with the circumstances that they had. We did go out to a couple of the farmers markets, and the farmer market was basically a shadow of itself, but we were slow, steady the whole time. They did an excellent job of engaging with the little ones and introducing the library to the residents of Clearview. We also had a very successful book sale that was on a Saturday in the foyer, and we moved a lot of books there as well. The students did a beautiful job of selling the library in-house. They did some gorgeous displays of our collection, plus they engaged with each and every patron that came in. They made a special effort to engage with families. And I just found them to be totally innovative. They gave a modern spin to our library services, and they updated us beautifully. So I hope to see them again next year. I spent a fair amount of time with them, and I was very impressed.
And what about this summer reading program?
Well, that's what they were doing,
That's
Diane.
the summary, yeah. And it was primarily kits. They were taking literacy and putting it into a fun format. And they were the paper bag kits that they children would pick up each week. There was something different. And it was great to see them come running in for the kids. It wasn't like homework or boring, I have to do it. The kids actually were leading the way into the library.
In-person programs. Well, as I said, we expected that there would be some in-person programs, but it does not look like that's the way things are moving. Unofficially, I've been told that the province's position is that if we have events and meetings that do not take place in the library proper, but in a programming room or a meeting room, that we would have to require proof of vaccination unless they were under whatever the age bracket is for that. Accordingly, at this time, we are not even considering in-person programming. There's just too many things that are going wrong with it. However, we have been printing and laminating people's receipts, and we will print and laminate, and this is all for free, the QR codes. That was a decision I took. We are finding the money from elsewhere in the budget. It is occupying, Michelle continually brings to my attention the amount of staff time this is taking. But one of the things I think we need to do is be a public support.
Mhm.
And this is one of the ways. It's also bringing in a lot of people who are not library users and letting them see what we have. Because the lineups are sometimes out the door. They're social distance, but they are out the door.
If I may interject for 1 second, boss, as well,
Yeah.
just so you know, in the last week, we've done close to 200 cards.
Yeah. So it is really,
Busy.
really popular
And I had to turn 5 people away this morning by 10:02.
because
They're
we're
lined
not
up this-
open to the public on Tuesday.
And the phone's been going nonstop today as well. So I'm not ragging the boss on this one.
No. She just, pointedly makes me aware of what is going on. I can't say we are certainly not the only library that is doing this in Ontario. And some of the larger libraries are not doing it because they would have thousands
Masses.
of people come in. It's not going to last forever because once the QR codes are out, people are going to, most of the people who are getting this done are people who do not have smartphones and are not going to be able to walk around and show what they have saved on their phone. Pam, you had a question?
So I was thinking it was September 22nd that people would need to show their vaccination status, but is it October 22nd?
No, the October date is when the QR codes are coming out. And what
Okay,
the province has stipulated is that once the QR codes are available, you can show either one. Now,
okay,
the debacle I have been dealing with today is whether you need to show both your receipts or just the one. And the province has stipulated that if your second receipt says on it that you have received your first dose, then the second receipt plus your photo ID is all you need to show. You
So
don't
are
need to
you-
have both of them.
will the library have to ask patrons to show?
No, what we are hearing from, what the province has said is that if people are coming in to, normally use the library to peruse the stacks, take things out, or use the public computers, they do not need proof of vaccination.
Okay,
What they have told me unofficially, because for some reason everything's slow and clogged down, is that if we have in-person programs, even if we're socially distancing and they're over the age limit where you need proof of vaccines and it's not in the middle of the library, which it's not going to be, you would need to have proof of vaccination. So, and even though the province hasn't come out and said this, other than sending me secret emails to the side, the Penetanguishene Public Library received clarification on this point from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, wherein they said that if it was that kind of event or meeting or program like an event or meeting, they would have to have proof of vaccination.
Right.
So it's not an issue for us at this time because the decision I have made is that we're not going to do in-person programming at this time. I mean, I'd love to get to it, but it doesn't look like a good time just yet.
No.
So for now, that's not an issue for us.
Yeah.
Well,
I heard you mention a receipt and a card. What is the card? I have a receipt that says you've received your second dose, and it's an 8.5 by 11 type print. But what's the card?
Well, when I'm talking, I mean the QR code that will come out in October. Okay. But again, if you've got your receipts and you're happy with them, then you don't need to worry about your QR code. They'll businesses and organizations that require proof of vaccination are required by the province to accept either.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well. Okay, so I had told you in an earlier email that we had received the Ontario Library Association Building Award for our Stainer branch, but I included the information in here as well, just to remind you how wonderful we are. So at the Library Building Architectural Conference. I, along with our architect, Luc Belain, did a presentation on our building. It was well received. I've had a few libraries who are building or looking at building contact me for recommendations and suggestions, and I've been happy to pass that on. I've also given a tour of our new facility on September 14th to the Simcoe County Library Cooperative staff. Our new Lowell branch was looking a little shabby. We have power washed the windows, and we've also repainted the drop box. I have, and you'll find out in the budget meeting next week, put in some money, I think not in 2022, but in 2023 to consider replacing the front doors. And I know for those of you that are antiques like me, you will remember that Joyce Smith really wanted the original doors on the building, but they're looking a little shabby, and they're also because they don't, because they're solid, they don't let any light, natural light into that part of the building. They also don't let staff see what may be going on at the front of the building, because the other two windows at the front are blocked by shelving. And I really think that putting something in that complements the age of the building, but that is a little more light friendly and a little more safety friendly would be a good idea to discuss further down the road. But as I say, I haven't included that in the 2022 budget. So just to keep in the back of your head for future budget years. Nottawa, we had a question from someone asking us in the public if we're still doing drop-off service to Nottawa, and we certainly are. So if someone orders items online to go to Nottawa or phones up staff, we will make sure that the material is dropped off at the Nottawa post office and pick it up from the same locale. One of the requirements from the township, because they are doing a pay equity and a market value assessment, is for the job descriptions to be updated. I have done that based on the changes since 2013, when the last job descriptions were put together, and submitted them to Tammy Gill. And I will, since they're ready for you, I will bring them to the October board meeting for you to have a look at. And that, Madam Chair, pretty much takes care of that report.
You said you had a couple of things to add to it, or have you already done so?
Have I what?
You said you had a couple of things you wanted to add to it?
Oh, yes, let me go on to them. So we are doing the printing and lamination of vaccine receipts, and we will do the QR codes. We did a few years ago have a patron's mother ask if she could donate a small steam engine to the library. Now, I mean so small that it's going to fit on top of a shelving unit, not so small that we could actually get in it and go for a ride. And the stipulation is that they would like it to be in a display case, because of course there's lots of little mechanisms and levers that they don't want touched. Most of you will know that the original Stainer Library was right across from, it was built right across from the Stainer rail station. That's the word I'm looking for. So we have a real connection with the rails in our community as a library. We also have some of the original CPR records in our archives. So I'm all for accepting this donation, and there is money in the budget to have this display case built. She is going to contact me next week to talk about the dimensions that we would need the case to be built, and then we can go ahead. The only proviso is that if the library ever no longer wants this item, that we contact the family, because they would take it back. But I think this is a historical item. I mean, I know when we were talking about building the Stainer branch, we were looking at how can we bring the history of the community into the branch. And I think this is one way.
So are you looking to put it on a shelving unit or in the?
No, I would have it on top of one of the existing shelving units. All we have to do is have our general contractor construct a display case. And when Dr. Graham in Creemore provided us with some historical medical
Right.
related material for display, we did the same thing. So we certainly have the money in the budget. It's not going to cost that much to create the display case. I don't think you need a motion. I think you just need to nod your heads and say, yes, go ahead. I think this will really add to what we have. Yes, Bob.
I'm just wondering about the weight. How big, have you got any sense of how big this is? Because if it's a metal operating steam engine, it probably weighs a good deal. And would our tops be strong enough to carry it?
Well, she did bring it into the branch when we were still in the old building one time, and she carried it in and by herself. So I think we're okay. It's not weight. It's not so heavy that it's going to be a problem. So that is one of the things I will go over with the contractor, though, that I don't want a heavy,
Yeah.
make it a good display case, but not heavier than the actual item going into the display case.
Right. Okay.
Okay. The landscaping for around these new Stainer branch is not going ahead this year. And the general manager for Parks, Recreation and Culture has been directed by council to bring it back to them in February of 2022. So I just wanted you to know, right? Because you're going to come up and you're going to say, why aren't they doing anything? And that's what's going on there. That's not our baby, but you need to be informed.
Yeah.
And the final thing.
Bob, sorry.
Yes, Bob.
Relative to that, the meeting we had in June, one of the things that was discussed was the painting of the parking lot and how it related to the accessible parking spots. So as you all know, the parking lot has been painted. The parking spots have been painted in. From what I gather, from what I see, they don't comply. At least the ones at the library side will comply. I learned that the sidewalk or the concrete pad will be flush with the pavement, so that anyone using those sites will be able to have access to the buildings without having to go into the driving areas of the parking lot. The others are not accessible, but they don't involve us. It's the ones that are on our new section that I was really concerned about. And so it looks like that is going to work out okay. So just to bring you up to date. I don't know whether you ever had a chance to get any feedback from Terry or the Public Works with regard
Well, that whole thing will be part of the landscaping, getting all that finalized. So we're not looking at that this year, is my understanding. But it's coming.
Okay.
And the final thing I wanted to bring to your attention is on Friday, the chair and Councillor Broderick and his worship and I met with the two developers of Sunrise Homes to receive a donation from their corporation towards the Stainer Library building project. They were I gave them a tour and they were very happy to see the Stainer branch. They think it's a wonderful building and that we've all communally done a lot to bring a great asset to the community, and they're happy to support it. So
And
hopefully that will stimulate some more.
Yeah, they did hint that there'd be another presentation too coming from them.
Yes. Your worship, can you add to that?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to, one, apologize for being a little bit late to the meeting, and two, apologize for leaving in and out here a little bit. I've been taking some important calls, and so I apologize. But I thank you, Jennifer, for your comment about the donation. It was quite a nice little event, and very glad that Diane, that you were able to be there representing the board. And anytime I've spoken about it, I did it this morning when I was on the radio. I mentioned it that I'm very proud of the work that the volunteers are doing here, the volunteer board, to continue the fundraising effort of the building fund, and happy that this business operator, Sunrise Homes, wanted to make this contribution. So I think it was really, really well done, and I appreciated them being really straight up that they want to help us build a community here. And so I think that's their way of making an investment in the community that they intend to be long-term business people in. So there you go. The good news is, as Diane sort of said, that they may show up with another donation, which would be very nice too. And I don't mind sharing with you that I've, of course, had continual conversations with various other business people in our community, and at every opportunity I have, I mention that we have a fundraising team here and a fundraising committee and a fundraising goal that needs to be met. So I'm very happy to talk about it, and hopefully we'll get other donations from other business people that see the value in investing in our local library. So I'm really glad it worked out just like it did. And Councillor Broderick, I was really happy to have you join us there, and it was really great. Unfortunately, again, for this specific event, it would have been nice to have have you all there, but this darn COVID thing makes it kind of complicated. So thank you very much for those that did participate.
Bob?
Just interested, where is Sunrise active in our community? Are they involved in the construction at this point in time, or are they still in the planning stage?
They have two pieces of property that they have. They do have an application that's already had one step. I mean, it's an application that's been received by our staff. They haven't presented it to council. They're along Mowat Street, sort of the next development that's right next to the Dancor. Sorry, yeah, the Dancor development. So they'd be the next one on Mowat Street is where they are. And so they have that, and then they have additional properties that are actually outside of Stayner, across Clearview Township as well, that they have other little projects that they're working on. So anyhow, if you want, you're more than welcome to email them at their website and have a conversation with them. But they are working with the planners here to get something into council. So
Excellent.
anyway, I thought it was a very generous thing. I mean, they initially simply just asked, is there something in our community that we could that they could help with? And interestingly enough, this was several months ago, Bob, you might recall, you and I had a conversation about the fundraising goals, and that's where that came from. I told them, I said, we've got a volunteer group that's doing fundraising for the library. Maybe you should talk to them. So that's kind of how it went. So
Great.
Happy to represent it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we've talked about 4.21, fully us. So 4.3 and 4.4 are the statistics for June and July of this year. And for some reason, I'm still trying, county can't tell me why, but the Wi-Fi access numbers are not there. They're not available to any of the libraries in the county. But other than that, our usage since we reopened of our collection has gone up considerably. You can see the totals for physical items in, well, physical and ebook and e-audiobook items in June is 3,533, and it's up to 7,811 in July. So people are coming back. And again, our reporting of financial, I haven't put anything in if we didn't receive anything. We are now accepting money. So in upcoming reports, you will see figures for faxing and things of that nature and replacement of library cards. But the board had decided not to have fines for the balance of the year. And the same with DVD
Memberships.
and
Insurance fees?
insurance fees.
Right.
So that's fine. And I think, I have not included those amounts for 2022 in the budget, and we can have that discussion later in the year or as part of the budget discussion about how you want to approach that. But there is certainly a strong movement in the North American Public Library community to disband fees or fines, not all fees. And there's lots of documentation that will support that if that is the way the board wants to go.
Yeah.
And most of the libraries in Simcoe County have stopped or intend to.
Right.
So,
Okay. We can have that discussion later, but
yeah, that doesn't
yeah.
need to be here. And the next item on the agenda then is the CEO performance review, the policy and the forms that go with that.
Mhm.
Which I realize is quite huge, but it is your second time looking at it, so.
Mhm. Are there any questions about it from anybody?
I did just note that there's one place where we still have CAO instead of CEO on the first page, policy number 1.
Oh, right, okay, so I can make that change.
Mhm.
Oh.
So the onus is going to be on us as a board to come up with goals. to assist
Well,
with
I'm
that.
supposed to submit goals to you.
I know, and we're supposed to come up with board goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand that this, by adopting this review process, we are in a total alignment then with the township's human resources procedures.
This is basically the same policy and the forms that the council used to evaluate the performance of the CAO.
Right.
So yes, you would be doing exactly the same that they are. And that's why you keep seeing CAO instead of CEO, because I just copied and pasted and obviously didn't correct as often as I should.
Oh, I guess my question it sort of is because we probably shouldn't be looking at tampering with it at this point, since it's a document that conforms with the township's protocol. And probably the best thing to do would be to actually accept it as presented, live with it for a year or two, and see whether everything works well for both yourself as a CEO and for the board. And that unless something comes up in the future that we would like to change, we'd have to go back to the township, I guess, and negotiate the change, that we should basically try to use it as best we can in the form that's been presented to us.
The only thing I would say is that we are a separate corporation, so I think it is essential that we keep in line with what the township is doing, but you don't need to, if you use it for a year or two and found something wasn't working for this whole process, you don't have to go back to the township. We might need to tell them what we're doing, but you don't have to get their approval for a change. Bob.
No.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's no need for us to really try to reinvent the wheel at this point.
No, and I think it's, I mean, if we use this we've used it as a guide, and if we find there's some adjustments that need to be made, that's fine. And I think it's great if we use it for a couple of years to see how it fits, how it works, because 3 years down the road, you're going to be talking to somebody else, not me.
Mhm.
And so you want to work the bugs out, so that it really works well for the next person. So yes, let's use this, let's move it forward and make any adjustments before my tenure as your CEO ends.
Mhm.
And you'll be all set for the new person.
So Jennifer, you've had a chance obviously to work through a fine-tooth comb on this. And are you happy that the report would meet your satisfaction? In other words, that we go by the sort of guidelines that measurable, achievable, responsible, and controllable. Those are the key factors that have to be in a performance review. Are you happy that everything in there would conform to those requirements?
I'm pleased with this. I think it can work. My only concern is that you are a volunteer board, and admittedly, three of you are elected officials, and there's this maybe more of an onus on you to work your backsides off. So I would really like to try this as it is for a year or two and see how it impacts volunteer board members, because I recognize that you are giving freely of your time. Some of you are still gainfully employed. Even those of you who are not still in the workforce have, my eldest sister is retired, and I think she's working more as a volunteer in her various volunteer forces than she ever worked when she was working full-time. So I'd like to see how this impacts you, and there may be some adjustments that need to be made to make it more palatable and more doable for board members. But I think we need to work through it to be able to see that. So I'm happy for this to be the template we use to go forward. And then, as you say, Bob, if we come back to it in a year or two and find something isn't quite working for us, to be open to revisiting it and see how we can switch it up.
Can you remind me, are we looking at this annually, semi-annually, or what's the term of the review?
So
It says-
initially, I would be submitting goals to the chair for discussion before I send them out to you. So there's, and then in February, you would be analyzing the goals that I had put through to see if I was living up to them. Unlike the Sprig system, which we're using with the rest of the staff, which is also being used by the other township staff, which is kind of 3 times a year review with staff, this is really more of an annual review. Obviously, we meet every month except in the summer, and I expect you to tell me if there's something going tits up, as it were.
Well,
I
it does
think
have a
it's,
time in June to review anyways.
yeah, I think it's very important that performance reviews give the person who is being reviewed the opportunity to make corrections if they need to. You don't want to wait till the end of the year and say, well, you weren't doing very good on this.
This is a very formal review
Yeah, it is.
process, whereas because for years I haven't had, well, I've been here 30 years, this will be my first formal review. But I do remember, for those of you who remember Joyce Smith when she was on council and was board chair, she felt very much that the whole content of the agenda was every month was a form of review. If there was an issue, it was discussed at the board meeting, sometimes in camera, to iron out things in the direction. Because honestly, when I've got 8 of you telling me what to do and there's only 1 of me, sometimes I'm not going to understand what you're telling me and I'm going off in a different direction and you need to bring me back, or you haven't understood what I've told you and your expectations aren't quite what is deliverable. So that sort of thing to me is a monthly discussion.
Right.
Whereas this is a very formalized process. So we have something in writing to see, and so that I can go back and say, oh, okay, this is a specific issue going on, should probably be monthly, just as part of the board meeting. Something to do with, your reports, we can't understand them. Or, you need to work on this, or the staff relations or something. That I think would be where you'd be moving in here. I can give you a glimpse of a couple of goals that I'm thinking of. One is being better able at demarcating work life from life, okay, which has become in this pandemic a real issue for me, so that I'm actually working 7 days a week, very long hours, which I don't have a problem with. But if we don't correct it with me, I don't want your expectations for the next CEO to be that they will do this, because they'll quit. And the other thing is, I love my job and I'd like to work here forever, but at some point you're going to want me to go out the door and retire. So we need to think about, another goal is working on succession planning for our senior staff. And I know Michelle would like to work here until we have to put her in a hole in the ground. But we have, most of our senior staff are going to retire in the next 5, even less than 10 years. And we need to start thinking about how we're going to move people in the ranks up into those positions, or can we? Are we a big enough organization that we can do that? And if we can't for some of these positions, how do we go about ensuring that there's some kind of succession?
Right.
So that's a glimpse of possible goals I might be submitting for the coming year.
Okay.
But those are very big, broad ones, right? That's not like,
Mm.
how are we going to implement, the
Certain-
vaccination policy, right?
Right. Okay, so can we,
On the
Sorry.
strength of that discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion that we adopt the CEO review process or process, I guess, it is, as circulated to us.
okay, seconder? Pam?
Thank you.
We have a vote on that, Madam Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Could you hear me there?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. I have no correspondence for the board this month, Madam Chair.
All right, so we have our financial reports.
So you have the bank account state information for May and for June. I didn't have the July stuff when I was in the branch last to create. So basically what you're seeing there is the interest.
Hey, Bob?
Yeah, that's something that is a little bit of a concern to me. In June, we got the March, April information. And now in September, we're getting the May, June information. Where does this information come from? Is it so hard to
It's
get?
from, well, no, but because we're split and the senior staff are only in the office every other week. If I'm in there in the week and the statements haven't come in yet, the bank statements haven't come in yet, I can't create the document when I don't have the information. So it's obviously come in when I wasn't. In fact, I think the last one, Michelle, for some reason, we didn't get the July statements. So Michelle has got, I believe you've gone to the bank and picked them
Yeah,
up.
I've got them. They're on your desk. Yep, they're
They're
sitting
on
there.
my desk, so you'll certainly be getting them for the next board meeting, but sometimes things go awry. The TD Bank, and I've had the deputy treasurer at the township working on this for me. We did go out and tell everybody what our new mailing address is. And he has gone back to TD several times and said, would you please correct this? But it's still going to our old mailing address. So sometimes things don't make it to our new address. But I will remind him again, although I'm sure he's heartily sick of me asking him to bother them about this, but you would
Well,
think.
there's one way for him to stop that being sick is just to get it done, right?
Yes, that's true. But yeah, so the information is on my desk now and you'll certainly get it. And usually it's more timely. I apologize for that, but that's out of my hands. And someday we'll all be in the office and you'll get all the information in a timely manner.
Any questions about the general ledger report?
I don't have any questions about it, but once again, I'm looking at a report that's dated June of 21. And this is September. And I don't think that's appropriate. I think we should have a more up-to-date report than one that's 3 months old.
Yep.
And this is something that's generated in-house. It's generated by the finance department.
Mhm.
And I understand, I quite agree, they've been under some stress with COVID, that there's lots of issues surrounding that, but it shouldn't be too hard to press a button and get a print off for the GL that's more current than this. This doesn't give us a chance to do anything about what's happening going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, I will speak to Kelly about that. And how often do you want it? Do you want it at every meeting? In which-
Well, we talked before about getting it quarterly, I believe.
Yep,
But if we get it quarterly, it should be up to date quarterly, not 3 months old quarterly. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
okay. I'll have that discussion with her and maybe even though it's supposed to be quarterly out there, I'll try to get one for the next meeting.
Okay. Does anyone have any new business to bring forward? No, doesn't look like it. No, okay. So our next meeting will be.
Diane, I do
Chair?
have one question.
Right, yeah,
If I can.
yeah.
I'm sorry, again, I apologize. I did miss part of the meeting. Did we have a discussion about the landscaping work that's going on or not going on? Has that
Jennifer
already been
told us
discussed?
it'll be next year now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, council did make that decision, so
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do in the spring. Thank you.
Good, thank you. All right, so our next meeting is still going to be virtually, I presume.
Yes.
In October the 19th at 4 o'clock again.
Yes.
Okay, can we have
Our
a,
next regular meeting, we are meeting next Tuesday at 4.
oh, for the budget meeting, that's right.
So I will get that, all the documents and the agenda and the invite out to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
I so move.
Okay, Kimberly? Okay, thank you. See everybody next week.
Adios all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Diane.
Hi, everybody.